Martin, lovely to see you.
Yeah, Nick, we've been talking for 15 minutes and I had to aggressively interrupt it because otherwise there would be no time to record anything. Lovely to meet you again. It's a pleasure every year.
Martin, how many videos would we have recorded over the last 10 years, 15 years?
It should be much more because I think the content that we're creating is unique, authentic, and insightful for most people, so not enough this year.
Not enough. I think the first one was at Summit 2009 or 10.
Yeah.
In San Francisco.
And you were still with Atlassian back then,
I was still with Atlassian then, yeah.
Tell us a little bit about how EasyAgile came about and what your story is.
Oh, EasyAgile.
Quick, we don't have that much time.
Oh, okay, quick. Well, EasyAgile, I guess at Atlassian as a product manager, there were a host of agile practices that we were running, and then I went and joined Twitter. And at Twitter, we had a very distributed workforce as opposed to the team at Atlassian that was more co-located. And so I had to get really effective at running distributed user story mapping, retrospective, planning, poker sessions. And so finishing up at Twitter, EasyAgile was like this natural kind of progression.
And you went back to Australia then?
Went back to Australia, started EasyAgile, and we were taking these practices off the wall and making digital versions of user story mapping session or a big room PI planning session and making it more effective for distributed teams. And as obviously we saw through COVID, you've got a heap of distributed teams these days.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about your products at EasyAgile.
So we've got 3 products. We have a team level product called Team Rhythm, and that focuses on user story maps, retrospectives, and planning poker for agile teams. So supporting those 3 practices. We have a group level product where you're looking at a collection or a group of teams to help them do PI planning, understand dependencies between teams, make sure that they're aligned around a goal in the future. It's typically a quarter in length. And then we have roadmaps, which is at the company level. So how do we get this view across an entire company as to what each of these groups and indeed each of these teams are doing?
Awesome. You're in a group of what I call the last man standing. A lot of people have sold their companies to PE firms and other people first, and then it suddenly stopped. Like last year there were still acquisitions. This year I didn't hear of any acquisition. Maybe I've missed it. But
maybe all the people that could be bought were bought.
Yeah, and you can't be bought. So what's your take on all this and why didn't you sell?
Well, I think the take on it is, we see that people spend, 10 years in pursuing something in a business, and maybe they want a new opportunity, a new challenge. And I think the private equity firms provide a very natural and easy exit path for founders. It can also be very lucrative. But if we think about, what we want to achieve at EasyAgile, we're having fun, we're learning. I've only just turned 40, Martin. And my kids are, thank you. And my children they're 10 and 8 years old, so I'm on the path for the next 10 years at least to get them out of home and be an empty nester. So if I sell the company, I can't, all my mates still work, my kids are at school, my wife's got stuff that's going on, so what am I going to do? So I might as well get involved and see what, if we can provide financial freedom to our team members, if we can support tens of thousands of teams around the world realize the benefits of being agile, if we can live up to our values every single day that we come to work, and if we can continue to be part of a community like this one, I'm it. I'm here for the long haul, man.
Awesome. I fully embrace that, and I feel it. We're at Atlassian Team 24 in Las Vegas. There were a couple of announcements yesterday. What's your take on them? What's your highlight? What got you excited?
I think the highlight for me is just to observe how fast things are progressing around artificial intelligence. It's 18 months since the launch of ChatGPT and this broad consumer application and appeal of generative AI, and to see the progress that Atlassian's made since Team 23 and Team 24 is quite phenomenal for me.
Oh, Christoph yesterday said, we're leaving La La Land and coming to something substantial that really could make a difference.
It feels pretty substantial, and I think.
Tell us, what is it?
I guess there's probably a lot that I need to process. I was actually thinking about this. I probably want to sit down with my wife and have a meal without the kids and just talk about what's what's the work environment or what's the community and society going to look like in 5 to 10 years for our kids? That's the thing that's kind of just been percolating in my mind since this week's announcements. Because I think about agents augmenting humans in their role, and I hear a lot about how this will enable us to do more, be more. But I wonder, do we go to a 4-day week? Do we go to a 3-day week? Or do we keep doing a 5-day week with agents? So do we get more done? And growth to what end? And what does that mean for society? So these are the things that are going through my mind. I need to reflect on.
I have a lot of things that it will be. Those are not topics that I can speak on video because I feel so illiterate, so naive on this area.
Yeah,
but I have a lot of opinions on that. But let's not dive into that. So these AI agents, they're like ChatGPT, but just for something very special, right? So I can then configure EasyAgile tools with this agent where I would have to read a doc before or something like that, right? Are you going to look into that as a vendor?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we'll certainly explore this stuff. I guess, like you, I feel naive at the moment in this. I recognize that there is so much that I do not yet know. So, for instance, I've started playing with Llama 3 on my Mac using Ollama. And I'm like, okay, so now I've got local generative AI. So what does this mean for the likes of OpenAI if I can get generative AI working effectively on my local machine? And what does this mean from a GDPR and a privacy perspective for our European customers versus our American versus our APAC customers? So I'm in knowledge acquisition mode. I'm trying to learn as much as possible.
Yeah, cool. Coming back to this, PE firms collecting all these companies, are you afraid that as not one of the biggest vendors, you'll have a lot of disadvantages, or do you think, no, that's not? So Randall Watt, for example, told me, I think 2 years ago, all marketplaces converge to 80% of the whole marketplace being, I don't know, held by one or two, or I don't know how many.
Pareto's principle, right? The 80-20 rule.
Yeah.
Look, I think there's definitely truth to that. I also feel like the market is so large and so untapped. Like, we've had conversations this week, and I feel like it's day one. We've been running EasyAgile for 8 years, and I'm more excited about the business today than I have been in the past history of the business, because it's like every time we come together every year, my eyes open up to more opportunities and more, there's more things to learn, certainly. And not without their challenges.
You feel much smaller every year because everything's becoming so big. So what's my point?
But if you do think about capital, and the capital requirements, if you come back to put aside private equity in the Atlassian ecosystem for a moment, but if you think about, the large investments for data centers from Amazon, Microsoft, and Google, these three companies are now contracting base build power stations to power their data centers. Okay, the capital requirements for something like that are tens of billions of dollars. So the number of companies that can play in that sort of game are few and far between.
Yeah.
And so, there's another book, we were talking about books before, there's another book that's probably worth a read, which is Winners Take All. Mm-hmm. And so the wealth accrues to those right at the very top. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. And so as a society, I wonder, how do we navigate that?
By the way, we've been talking about the checklist manifesto by Atul Gawande because we're running a checklist app called Bid It Checklist, and I was so stoked that you read this book because I think it's so insightful.
Well, I think Atul Gawande is quite an interesting author. And we went from the checklist manifesto to being mortal, and
yeah, and my inability to deal with my own mortality at this point. But once you see that, I'll be one step further. You're one of the founders that people that start becoming a marketplace partner should look up to and should look into. What's your recommendations? What can you give those people that you should have known before? And it can be very operational, it can be strategic.
For being a founder?
Yeah, what should they do?
Oh gosh. Wow, Martin, we could record a whole video on that.
We're right at it.
I spend a lot of time with founders, helping them navigate the journey. And I think finding a support network is probably the most important thing that they can do. And when I say support network, I'm not talking about venture capital, I'm not talking about private equity, I'm talking about other founders that are going on the journey or have been on the journey, right? That know what it's like to face that first hire, that first fire, that know what it's like to figure out, forecasting for the first time or sales for the first time. And that support network, I think, is tremendously valuable for maintaining optimism and momentum when the journey of a founder can be really hard. And if we reflect back on Mike and Scott, Mike and Scott, there's these two people. They've got both, like one can start a family and the other one can take the lead in the business. Dave and I saw that, right? Like we had our second child, Dave takes the lead. Dave has his second child, I take the lead. Dave's family, there's a tragedy in the family. And so there's this back and forth that people can have. But as a solo founder, that's hard. And even when you're two founders together, there still needs to be, I believe, this support network beyond the immediate company. Because how can you have conversations? Like for instance, I can't go to the school sport and have chats with other parents at school sport around the founder journey. Because if they work for a larger company and they're in a corporate environment, we don't share the same context.
Yeah.
And they would look at what I'm doing and they'd say, gosh, you got so much flexibility and you get to travel for events and all this sort of stuff. And I'm like, oh yeah, but you don't have to worry about the paychecks of 50 other people. So there's pros and cons to everything, but finding your community, I think, is really important.
Oh, that's also, I could go on for this forever, because this kind of like one business model that we're trying out at Seibert Media right now, providing this hands-on support network to founders, and there's a high demand for that, and it's so much different from, someone's giving me money.
Yeah. Because money's easy.
Yeah.
You can go to a bank and you can get money. You can use a credit card like Mike and Scott famously did. You can go to VC, PE. You can go to families and friends. But none of those avenues of getting money give you any of the operational expertise or experience.
I think one of the big strengths that people like you have is that you have to change to master this entrepreneurship. So in the beginning, the requirements that you need to succeed in your business are so much different from where you're now.
Absolutely.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Oh gosh, I mean, look, I think about early on in the piece, you're so, for me at least, so customer focused, product market fit. And it's a early stage, small team. And then the team starts to grow and you start from going and working in the business to working on the business. And the sorts of skills that you need to bolt on and change over time are really important. If I think about one of the things that is a challenge for me at the moment is I need to go from having really effective one-on-one conversations about finance or customers or partners or whatever to having more effective one-to-many conversations. So as the company's growing, historically I'd have one-on-one conversations about the P&L, the balance sheet, financial forecasting, things like that to educate team members. Well, now I don't need to educate one, I need to educate like 10 people leaders, or I need to educate a company of 50 people. So the methods of those conversations changes. So I'm constantly trying to reflect on my approach and evolve my approach as the company evolves as well.
How do you make sure that not too many meetings creep in?
Oh, well, not too many meetings creep in. I mean,
are you very busy doing meetings, or is your calendar free?
The times that I get very busy are when I'm a hiring manager for them.
Yeah.
So if I'm a hiring manager, my calendar is terrible. But when I'm not a hiring manager, even if I'm on a hiring panel for another role, my calendar does have time for strategy, reading, deep work, that deep thinking time. So for me, it tends to ebb and flow over the course of a quarter, depending on what hire is taking place.
Awesome. That's a very insightful answer.
Yeah. What else can I tell you, Martin?
I have no idea. What else can you tell people that are in this struggle? That my mission is to save them from selling, because I see so many people coming back, and you call them boomerangs.
Boomerangs, yeah.
And it sounded like a cool thing, but I feel that if you sell the company and then you come back as the CEO of the same company, but not the owner anymore, or if you sell the company and then you come back as a founder of a completely new company, it feels completely wrong to me. It feels like not a failure, but like a missed opportunity. There's an architect that my wife and I love. Oh, I'm being told we're running over time. Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Okay, wrap it up, Mark. Wrap it up.
This architect said, "Oh, don't worry, I'm old, but as long as the Lord lets me, I'll be in this job." Mm-hmm. And that really struck me, because I thought, I can relate to that. I have so much fun working that I could imagine.
My old man is 83, and he still runs a software company, right? He can't help himself. He's got his community stuff. He's got a routine, but he loves the game of business, and so he's still in for it. You know, I'm just like, there's so much opportunity in life.
Let's be like your dad.
Well,
old man is your dad, right?
What's that?
Old man is.
Oh, you're my dad.
Yeah, I'm
sorry.
I always need translation for these things. So
mein Vater, yeah?
Yeah, your father, yeah. Thank you so much, Nick.
Thanks, man.
I want to.
Oh, you can.
It's probably not good for the microphone, but thank you so much.
Thanks, man.